Hello and welcome to the Dream Team Professor podcast. My name is Scott and in this episode we're going to be looking at the top players to target in Gameweek 15 Sun Dream Team. In Gameweek 14 we've had a lot of boosters, we've had the park the bus, we've seen a lot of max captains and I also played my 12th man. So we're still going to be covering a little bit of Gameweek 14 in this episode. It's Thursday morning, so we still also have a couple more games to go for Game Week 14. But it's an early deadline on Saturday morning with Liverpool in the early kickoff. So I wanted to get this video out as soon as possible. So fixture ticker from ffstuff.co.uk up on the screen. We're going to be looking at Game Week 15 through to Game Week 18. Game Week 15 this week coming is the final round of European fixtures until the knockouts start in February time. But it is a bit of a mixture because we've got a few dead games in there. We've got City who have already won their group. Arsenal have already won theirs. Liverpool like the same. But then you have got Man United who still need to win. Newcastle need to win. Villa and West Ham, for example, still want to win their groups. So there are a few dead games, but there are a few still to play for. In Game Week 16, following on from that, so we've got Premier League and Carabao Cup double. So if you're in the EFL quarters, they'll have a game. So that's Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea, Fulham, West Ham and Everton is the final team in the EFL Cup. And then in Game Week 17, we have another Premier League double. All teams will be having a double game week that week, apart from Manchester City, who are at the Club World Cup. We've got Brighton, who have a postponed fixture, Brentford, who have a postponed fixture, and then Palace also. So they're the only teams that won't have a double in Game Week 17. And then Game Week 18 is pretty much a single for everyone, apart from Brighton and West Ham, who have their rearranged fixtures. In terms of fixture volume, so we have, in this period of time, we have just the two teams that play 7 fixtures, and that's Liverpool and Newcastle. They play the European fixture and Carabao Cup. Teams with 6 fixtures, you've got United, Arsenal, Villa, Chelsea, Fulham, West Ham, Everton. They have Carabao Cup and European football. And then pretty much everyone else, including City, Brighton and Spurs, have just the 5 fixtures, apart from Brentford, who have 4. So now's not a great time to have Brentford players in your team. Buemo was probably one of the only ones that seemed a little bit appealing, but actually he went off injured as well yesterday. So Brentford, probably not someone we're going to be looking at. Ranking these teams sort of from Game Week 15 through to Game Week 18, I think City do have really good fixtures in Luton, Red Star Belgrade, Palace, Everton and Sheffield United. But where they're going to the Club World Cup, you can see on the screen, in Game Week 16 they just have the single, and in Game Week 17 they have the single. So Man City don't have as many fixtures as some of the other teams. Liverpool have a really good run and they're in really good form as well. They do have a couple tough fixtures thrown in there, but they are all at home. So they have Crystal Palace and Union Saint-Gilloise this week. Then they have a few tough games, but all of them will be at Anfield. So Man United, West Ham, Arsenal, all at Anfield. They then have Burnley away and then Newcastle at Anfield as well. So despite there being tough games, I still do quite fancy them at Anfield. Newcastle have the maximum amount of fixtures as well, which is 7, the same as Liverpool, which means they're in the Carabao Cup and the Champions League still. Tottenham, AC Milan, Fulham, Chelsea, Luton, Forest and Liverpool. So I think their fixtures look pretty good at the minute. Chelsea have a really good run of fixtures. We've been looking at this for quite a while in anticipation, but they still look a little bit dodgy at the moment. So I'm not sure how I feel about them. Everton, Sheffield United, Newcastle, Wolves, Crystal Palace and Luton. So we're going to cover them, but I'm not feeling too great about them at the minute. Spurs have got a great run after this Newcastle game. So they have Newcastle at home. They then have Forest, Everton, Brighton and Bournemouth. Really, really good fixtures there to target. And also, they've been at a bit of a disadvantage where they haven't had Europe in Dream Team. Obviously, all of the European fixtures count. They also haven't had the Carabao Cup. But now that European football is coming to an end, maybe we can start looking at players like Son again. Arsenal do have some really tough fixtures. We've got Aston Villa, which is looking like a terrible game now after they've just beat Manchester City. We then have PSV, but that game doesn't really mean anything now. Brighton at home, Liverpool away, West Ham at home. All look like they could be tough games. And then Fulham away from home in game week 18. So starting to get a bit tough for Arsenal. And letting in a few goals against Luton and Wolves this week isn't going to help. West Ham, 3 nice fixtures, and then it gets a little bit tougher. So West Ham have got Fulham, Freiburg and Wolves, which look really good on paper. They then have Liverpool in the Carabao Cup, Manchester United, Arsenal and Brighton. So their run starts to get a bit tougher after that. Brighton, the fixtures look good. I just don't know what to expect from them in a minute. Burnley, Marseille, Arsenal, Crystal Palace, Spurs and West Ham. And then United's run looks pretty bad. Bournemouth at home looks all right, but then it's Bayern, Liverpool, West Ham, Villa and Forest to follow after that. So I'm going to narrow this down to City, United, Arsenal, Liverpool, Newcastle, Villa, Chelsea, Brighton, Spurs and West Ham in this episode. We're going to go through each team and highlight the players that we want to target and just cover their previous results in Game Week 14. So going to start off with my team, Arsenal, and they disappointed a ton of people that have their defenders, but also that part the bus as well. So 2-1 against Wolves, looked pretty comfortable and then conceded a sloppy goal to wipe out the clean sheet. That was an individual error by Zinchenko, who did also get an assist in that game. And then the Luton game, 4-3. No one could have seen Arsenal conceding 3 goals against Luton. Declan Rice obviously with the winner. But yeah, for the defenders in Dream Team, this was a terrible result. So Arsenal have been poor at the back this week, but pretty strong in attack, still scoring 6 goals. Tomiyasu has been ruled out for up to 4 weeks. So it's a little bit worrying for the defence, but you might be fancying the minutes for your defenders a bit more. And then looking at the fixtures, Villa's looking really, really tough now away from home. Their home record is brilliant. And then that PSV game's a bit of a nothing game, so we probably don't expect many of our Arsenal players to play twice this week. And then after that, look, Brighton, Liverpool, West Ham, Fulham, the fixtures do get tough. But the main guy, Saka, delivered again this week. 6.6 million, 22 points for the game week. And I see him with a few people captaining him as a differential, and that one turned out pretty well. I think a few people might have possibly had him as their max captain as well. So if he did that, that turned out to be a good move. Goal and an assist this game week, and 3 bonus points in each of the games. So he's on 8 goals, 12 assists, and he's got 20 returns in 20 games. So up there with Salah and Haaland, I think Saka is one of the most desirable players to have at the minute. The midfielders and attackers for Arsenal, though, have still been delivering. So Ødegaard, 5 million, got a goal and an assist this game week, 16 points. He's played 2 lots of 90 minutes as well this week. So I didn't think there was too much to split him and Martinelli. But actually, 2 lots of 90 minutes for Ødegaard this week. And Martinelli, despite scoring against Luton, and he hit the post against Wolves, but didn't score that many points. Martinelli got 2 early subs. So Martinelli came off in the Wolves game in the 78th minute. And he also came off in the 64th minute against Luton. So if you are looking between Martinelli and Ødegaard, it is looking like Ødegaard probably is going to end up with more minutes. I do expect that both probably get rested against PSV though. Gabriel Jesus, 5.4 million, got a goal and an assist against Luton. And he has looked really good. But I'm still not sure about that 5.4 price point. 2 goals and 2 assists in his last 4 games, though. So 4 attacking returns in the 4 games that he's come back from injury. So he's doing well. But with this fixture run coming up, tough games, I think there are better options up top. I don't think I'll be putting these players in my team, but it's worth covering because they've had a fairly good time. Declan Rice, obviously with that winner, 3.7 million. He's on 3 goals, 2 assists so far, and he's chipping along okay. And then Kai Havertz has 3 goals in 3 starts. He cost 3.3 million at the minute, but I still don't think it's worth going near him yet. He does seem to be starting 1 in 2 as well. Might be trusted for these bigger games, but at the moment, it's an avoid. But I just wanted to mention those 3 goals in 3 starts. Defensively, with this fixture run, I'm not feeling so keen now. So I've got 2 Arsenal defenders in my team. I've got Saliba and Zinchenko. Been happy with them overall. But with this run of fixtures, Aston Villa, Brighton, Liverpool, West Ham. I'm not feeling too confident about the clean sheets, to be honest. So I think that probably dropping down to 1 is okay. I still think having 1 is okay. We're still a pretty decent defence in general. But yeah, multiple I'd move away from personally. And I wouldn't blame you if you didn't have any. So Saliba, 4 million, poor week. He had 2 blanks this week. And he's probably going to miss PSV as well. So just the one fixture against Villa away from home doesn't look great. Zinchenko did get that assist, and he's been doing okay for attacking returns. Got 5 points in that one. But he did get rotated with Kivior for that Luton game, which probably was because Kivior's got the aerial advantage, and they did probably plan for Luton's aerial attacks, but they obviously didn't deal with them very well. So Zinchenko, slight rotation risk, but with Tomiyasu out, I think Zinchenko and Ben White's minutes are going to be a lot more safe. Ben White's 4.3. He was benched for Wolves. Got a nice assist in the Luton game and a start. But yeah, I think I'd probably just choose one of these. And if you've already got Saliba in your team, even though he did poorly this week, he's probably the one that I'd stick with. We're going to come on to Liverpool next, and they're on a really good run of form. So a 4-3 win against Fulham. Again, it wasn't looking good for Park the Buses at this point. Arsenal obviously gave away the clean sheet against Wolves, and then Liverpool conceding 3 goals to Fulham at home was a big surprise. But then a 2-0 win against Sheffield United yesterday. That clean sheet would have relieved a few Park the Bus players, but it was the attacking returns from the defenders that really made the difference this week. So Trent Alexander-Arnold, 5.6 million, got 3 attacking returns, 1 goal and 2 assists this game week. 4 bonus points. I think he could have also had another goal because it sort of hit the crossbar, come back down, hit the keeper and went in from a free kick. So might have even ended up with 4 attacking returns in 1 game week. So massive week for him. 24 points this game week. So Park the Bus guys got 48 points just off the 1 player. A real cracking performance from Trent Alexander-Arnold. Real threat from corners. He's looking really, really confident, and I don't think I can ignore him. I wasn't that keen before now because of the price point, but with a few players like Bruno Fernandes not looking as good, I do think he is quite interesting at that price. Long-term fixtures defensively aren't great, but like I said, there's a lot of home games there, and you do fancy them at home. Crystal Palace and Union Saint-Gilloise are away from home. You probably think he just plays the Palace game. Man United home, West Ham home, Arsenal home. 3 home games in a row. Maybe he doesn't play in the Carabao Cup, but it's getting to the quarterfinals now, and West Ham just knocked out Arsenal and put out a really strong side. So maybe Liverpool put out a strong side as well. But it is just before that Arsenal game, which 2 teams at the top of the table at the minute. Burnley away from home, probably no problem there. And then Newcastle at home will be another big fixture in game week 18. So I expect that he gets a lot of minutes in this run. Virgil van Dijk, one last thing on Trent. 5 returns in 4 games as well for attacking returns. So he really is back in full form. Virgil van Dijk, 3.9 million. Again, for Park the Buses. Done very, very well this week. So he grabbed a goal in yesterday's game. Grabbed a goal and had 3 shots as well in that Sheffield United game, which was quite impressive. But Liverpool still did give up quite a few chances in that one. And if Sheffield United weren't so terrible, they probably could have scored a couple goals the same way Fulham did score 3. So Trent, obviously, his attacking returns make him more desirable than Virgil, but Virgil van Dijk is 3.9 million. So comes in quite a bit cheaper. I still think he's pretty good value for money. 15 points for him against Sheffield United. But it was just the 2 points against Fulham. Salah at 6.8 million. Obviously still a keep. Him and Haaland, I don't think you can move them out. Just the assist and 7 points against Fulham. And then a disappointing early sub against Sheffield United off in the 67th minute. Didn't look anything to worry about. Looks like just rotation. Obviously they're that early game on Saturday morning against Crystal Palace, so he must be having his minutes managed for that one. So still a keep, but probably a little bit of a disappointing week. Talking of disappointing weeks, Darwin Núñez, frustrating as ever. So I'll come on to this on my team update, but I did put him in as my 12th man this week. I had a really good feeling about Darwin Núñez, and I had a good feeling about Liverpool this week. I did expect them to score a ton of goals. Came away with 6 goals, so wasn't far off there. I did expect Darwin to be involved in maybe a couple of them. But just the assist for him this week, and frustrating as ever. So he hit the crossbar in the Fulham game in typical fashion, and then was benched in the second game. But he did come off the bench and grab an assist in that one, as well as a yellow card. So, yeah, not a great week for Darwin Núñez. Would he get 3 points in the first game, and then it was 4 points in the other. So 7 points in total for Darwin. Not a good 12th man for me. Szoboszlai, 3.7 million, 14 points for the game week. And in these Premier League double game weeks, he does look like a good one to target. So he does play both. He played both this week, 14 points, 2 goals, 4 assists in total now. So I think he's looking a good option as we move into the congested Premier League schedule. And then Luis Diaz is the other one that I'd say he actually did look quite exciting on the eye test, but he didn't really deliver a ton of points. He got 6 points in the Fulham game for a couple of shots on target. And then in the Sheffield United game, he just got the 2 points. So I think it's one to watch at the minute, not to bring in yet. But it did look quite good, and Jota is still out. And he started 2 games. I thought that Jota might end up getting either Darwin or Diaz more minutes, and it turned out to be Diaz, with Gakpo taking minutes off Darwin. So one to watch, but Trent is looking like the standout option at the minute from Liverpool. Manchester City, yeah, not a great week. 3-3 against Spurs, and then a 1-0 defeat to Villa last night. And it's 1 win in 5 now for Manchester City. I don't think they'll be overly concerned, because they can just easily go on an unbeaten run or a run of wins. But they are struggling a little bit at the minute. 1 win in 5. Struggling for clean sheets as well. Just a 2 in 8. I think one of them was in the Champions League as well. But their Premier League fixtures do look good. So Luton away from home. I doubt they'll concede 3 at Luton as well, as the same way we did. Red Star Belgrade in the Champions League. I imagine there'll be a lot of rotation because they've won the group. They then face Crystal Palace at home in Gameweek 16. But they just have a single because there's no Carabao Cup for them. And in Gameweek 17, they missed the first fixture also because they're at the Club World Cup, which doesn't count for Dream Team points. They then come back and play Everton at the back end of that game week. And then they have a single against Sheffield United in Gameweek 18. So the fixtures do look good, but they have less fixtures than a lot of the other teams. So just be wary of that fixture gap. I've got Foden and Haaland. I probably will still keep Haaland for the singles, because Haaland against Crystal Palace and Haaland against Everton, I'm still going to want him for those. But it's just one thing to be wary of. I might end up moving Foden, we'll have to see. But Foden at 5.1 million, still think is a good hold at the minute. So Luton away from home, he's looking good. He's still got a goal against Spurs. He did blank against Villa. 12 points for the game week. He played on the left wing against Villa because there was no Doku and Grealish. So not a great game there, but 7 goals and 6 assists. I still think he's probably the second best player to choose from at Man City behind Haaland, who grabbed just the 2 assists this week. No goals. 2 assists against Spurs. Probably could have had a third if they didn't blow up a bit early for that pass to Grealish. But 6 points and 4 points, which was a disappointing captain if you captained him. And actually Salah's was a little bit disappointing as well. The 2 big hitters didn't really deliver on this double game week. Alvarez 4.3. I don't really think this is a player to target. I think this is more to maybe be a little bit concerned about. He got a 5-pointer and assist against Spurs, but blanked at Villa. He still is up there for the attackers. But Watkins has overtaken him, and Núñez is getting real close. So I'm not really interested in Alvarez at the moment. But if you have got him for Luton, I probably don't think you take him out. But I just wouldn't be looking to bring him in at the minute. A couple other ones I'm going to highlight, but again, I'm not that keen on bringing City players in ahead of the lack of fixtures. But Bernardo Silva, 4 million. He's played pretty much 90 minutes in 7 of the last 8 games now, averaging 5.1 points per game, which isn't bad. On the cheaper side for the City mids, he's hitting tackles and big chances created quite regularly. So maybe not one for now, but it just caught my eye when I was looking at the stats. But I think there are a few better options, less than 4 million. Anthony Gordon, for example, being one of them. So just maybe one to keep an eye on. And then defence, I think it feels risky at the minute. I know Luton away looks brilliant. Crystal Palace at home looks brilliant. So could be worth doing. Sheffield United coming up down the line. Honestly, terrible attack. And then Everton. So they do look good. It's just whether you want to go for someone with these blanks in mind. But it might mean that there's less rotation potentially. So Gavardiol at 3.8 has had back-to-back starts now. He was busy yesterday. Had 8 tackles in that Villa game, getting 7 points still. Kyle Walker, 3.4. Probably still looking the most nailed option in the City defence. He's had back-to-back starts, but again, it's just, do you trust them? 3.4 million doesn't seem like a bad price, though. And then one thing just to highlight, I don't think it's worth putting in 4.4 million, but John Stones is back in the starting lineup again, so might end up making City a better defence more in the long term. Before we go on to Newcastle, if you're enjoying the video so far, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Or if you're listening on podcast platforms, please do give us a follow on there as well. And if you're after a bit more Sun Dream Team content, latest episode of the Dream Team Tonic podcast, we had special guest Andrew with us, who was the previous Dream Team winner in 2018-2019. So he had some interesting Dream Team insights to share with us on that podcast. That's live on YouTube and all podcast platforms now, so you can check that out there. Newcastle, game week 15. So they have still got a game to play. They won 1-0 against Man United, and they still have Everton away to play this evening. They have Tottenham away from home next week, and then AC Milan at home in that big Champions League final fixture. So still all to play for there. They did get a Nick Pope injury in that Manchester United game, and it looks like he's going to be out for 5 months with a shoulder injury. So that might impact the defence or open up an opportunity for a new goalkeeper. But I'm going to start with Trippier, 5.2 million. He's still on 2 yellow cards, and he is going to be playing this evening. So obviously do look out for that. If he picks up a yellow card this evening, he will be suspended for the next Premier League game against Spurs, but he will still play AC Milan. Got his 8th assist of the season against Man United. 14 points so far for the game week, and he's just been so impressive. He's the 5th highest scoring player on the game. Fixtures are starting to look decent again. So Spurs, okay, a really good attack. AC Milan, Fulham both at home. Chelsea away, Luton away, Forest at home, and then Liverpool away from home. I think this looks like a good run of fixtures. Maybe we're hoping that he gets this yellow card just out of the way. I'd feel more comfortable bringing him in if he just gets it out of the way for that Spurs game. And then we have all these better fixtures to look at. So, yeah, Game Week 15 looks okay. And actually, although it's Spurs and AC Milan, we have seen Newcastle defend really, really well against these top sides. So, I still do fancy those fixtures. He's 2nd overall for player performance marks, which is what earns you your bonus points. And he's 4th overall for bonus points. And if he gets 1 bonus point tomorrow, he'll be back at top of the shop for bonus. So, Trippier is looking like a very, very good player to have in your team. Anthony Gordon at 3.8 million, 11 points in this game week. Got his 6th goal of the season, and he's on 5 assists as well. 10th in the overall Dream Team rankings, and he's just 2 points behind Bruno Fernandes, who cost £2 million more. Obviously, Gordon playing tonight, he's probably going to get 2 points, so he's probably going to overtake Bruno Fernandes as well. Definitely one of the best value for money picks at the minute. Isak, 4.4 million. So my striker at the minute, he's got 2 games that he's probably going to start in, and both meaningful fixtures, whereas quite a lot of the other strikers are probably going to get rotated in midweek. So I still think he's a good option for this game week and for the upcoming fixtures, probably until Wilson comes back. Just 3 points so far this game week. He's on 9 goals and 1 assist so far. But I do think this Everton away fixture looks good, and he should be on penalties as well. So I'm still liking the look of Isak at 4.4. Livramento is looking like a real good budget enabler in defence at 2.8 million. So 10 points this game week. He's been delivering at left back without Burn in the side. I think Burn's not back until mid-January as well. So it's looking pretty good for Livramento. 6 bonus points from his last 3 games. And it's just a cheap entry into this Newcastle defence. If you can't quite get to Trippier, I think Livramento is a great budget version of Trippier. And then Dubravka has appeared at 1.6 million. Now, whether or not they go and try and get a goalkeeper in January remains to be seen. But while Nick Pope is out for 5 months, Dubravka is going to step up at 1.6 million. So a lot of us were on Johnston earlier in the season, and we're looking maybe to move on to Sanchez for Chelsea's good run of fixtures. But actually, since then, Kelleher's cropped up at 1.9. A lot of us went Kelleher, but then when Alisson comes back soon, we've now got Dubravka as a potential option to get into Newcastle's defence at 1.6 million. So I don't mind that. I think that's a pretty good option still. And he's had just the 1 start this season, and it was a clean sheet against Man United. So undefeated when it comes to clean sheets in a minute. So could look good for Dubravka. We'll see how he gets on this evening. But that is Newcastle. Man United, I'm going to keep this short and sweet, really. Bournemouth fixture looks good at home. Bayern, Liverpool look bad. West Ham away still looks pretty bad. Aston Villa at home doesn't look great. And then Forest away from home is never an easy fixture. So I'm not really fancying any of these Man United players at the minute. 1-0 loss against Newcastle. 2-0 win against... 2-1 win against Chelsea it was. Not 2-0. But I just don't think there's any Man United players needed at the minute. There's good options from a lot of other clubs that are in good form. Bruno Fernandes at 5.8. He just keeps disappointing me. When I get him in, he just dips in form. And then when I take him out, he does well. Probably the best thing is to just keep him and stick with him. But if you want to build budget, he keeps losing you budget. He's going to go down in price this week because he's had 2 blanks. He missed a penalty this game week as well. Even more frustrating that he gave away that penalty to Rashford the other day. Although he could have just missed that one as well. But yeah, at the minute, not feeling great about Man United and not feeling so great about Bruno Fernandes. Despite him being so frustrating, he's still the 9th highest scoring player on the game. But he is a premium player. And that's as of Wednesday evening, so could still go down. He did manage to avoid his 5th yellow card. I thought he might get that against Newcastle. He didn't get it against Chelsea either, so maybe he's wised up a bit there. But yeah, I think I'm running out of patience with Bruno at 5.8. And then I think attackers look out of the equation. Rashford's been dropped. Martial's been rubbish. Højlund came back in yesterday. Had 1 shot on target, 3 points. The only attacker for them who's looking good at the minute is McTominay, grabbing 17 points yesterday. A brace, and he'll cost you 2.9 million. But realistically, not putting him in. I'm not really fancying their defence either. I still think there's a lot of good options at other clubs, and they're going to play Bayern, Liverpool, West Ham and Villa up next. So for me, I'm avoiding Man United. West Ham unbeaten in 5, 4 wins, 1 draw. 1-1 against Crystal Palace. And then they still have Spurs to play this evening. So we'll have to wait and see how that one goes. But next 3 fixtures look okay. Fulham away, Freiburg at home, Wolves at home. But then it gets tougher. So Carabao Cup, Liverpool away from home. Man United at home in 17. And then Arsenal away in 17. And then just the single in Game Week 18, which is Brighton at home. So maybe the next 2 game weeks you could get away with. Especially if Liverpool do rotate, you might fancy West Ham. But after that, it does look tough. So, yeah, one to watch, but I'm still not convinced. I really enjoyed having Bowen in my team until he got injured. He was back starting in the last game, 5.3 million. I think it's just one to watch again now just to see how he comes back. played 90 minutes, but just got the 4 points, 2 shots on target. So probably going to go down in price where he's quite expensive. 15 and 16 probably look okay, but yeah, I think I'm just going to wait and see. He's on 9 goals and 3 assists so far. He might do well in these sort of counter-attacking fixtures, but coming back from injury, I just want to wait and see how he gets on. Kudus, 4.2 million, grabbed 14 points in the last game, hit the maximum bonus of 5 goals, 3 assists for the season. But again, at 4.2, I just think there probably are better options there. But he has started 8 out of the last 10. So if you do like the look of Kudus, he probably is looking now to start at the minute. Ward-Prowse, 4.5. Another one that's can be a little bit frustrating. Just the 2 points against Palace, 4 points against TSC, and then 3 points against Burnley. So he's had a couple of off games, but we'll see how Spurs goes. And then Paqueta at 4.2. Now, he's not someone that I'm going to be picking, but he has been fairly popular in teams. I think he was on penalties. He's second highest for tackles in the game, 54 tackles, just behind Palhinha, who's a tackle monster. But I was just thinking, with Liverpool, United, Arsenal and Brighton all coming up next, I imagine he's probably going to do pretty well for tackle points and bonus. He's on 107 points and he's the 10th highest midfielder at the time of recording. So one to watch. I don't think I'll be bringing him in, but he might still be alright to keep hold of if you have got him with these tough fixtures, because I imagine he's going to be busy with tackles. Aston Villa, seriously impressive. First clean sheet in 10 games against Man United. So bloody typical. If you're like me, I mean, I took Matty Cash out and I'm completely happy with the choice because he's ended up falling out of favour now. But if you'd stuck with these Villa defenders for so long and then they go and get their first clean sheet in ages against Manchester City, that's hard to take. Even Martinez had an absolute blinder yesterday, right before he's ready to play Arsenal. So we'll see how that goes. So first clean sheet in 10. Cash and Diaby both seem to have fallen out of favour and lost their place. Both of them have been on the bench for the last 2 games. Cash and Diaby. Matty Cash seems to have lost his place to kind of to Konsa. Konsa's been sort of playing out on that right-hand side. Diego Carlos has come in, or Pau Torres. So yeah, Cash hasn't been starting. And then Bailey has come in ahead of Diaby and he's looked really good. He's grabbed a goal in each of the games this week. 9 points and 10 points for Bailey. He only cost you 3 million. He's on 5 goals and 6 assists for the season. Ollie Watkins, I still think he's a really great player to have. I wish I never took him out, to be honest. He got a goal and an assist against Villa. Nothing against City, but 10 points in that game before that. I was always going to take him out because I just, with this new deadline and having 2 transfers, if a player is left out through injury and then you've got to wait and see what they say in the press conferences and they don't give anything away, or it's a late fitness test, in a double game week, I just don't want to risk having a player that's not going to play. He did go on to play, but I mean, I could have taken that risk with Bowen the week before and he didn't play either game. So I think this is probably the way I'm going to approach it with injuries this season. But 10 goals, 9 assists. He's the 6th best player overall and the 3rd best striker on the game, overtaking Alvarez. So I still think that he's a brilliant player to have with these fixtures. Arsenal at home, their home record is mental. They've had 1 loss at home this season and they won the other 11 games. So I don't think it's any problem having Ollie Watkins for this Arsenal game. And then they've got Zurinsky. Maybe he doesn't play. Brentford, Sheffield United, Man United and Burnley. 16 onwards looks really good, and probably even 15 looks fine. So if I didn't have Isak at the moment, I'd seriously consider just bringing Ollie Watkins straight back in. Konsa, 3 million. 6 points and 9 points this game week. 4 bonus across the 2 games. And he's got the most, I mentioned the points, player performance marks, that Trippier was 2nd. Konsa has the most of any player at the moment. He's just ahead of Trippier by a couple of points. But this is what gets you the bonus, and Konsa just racks them up every game. So he's looking like a good player still at 3 million. Whether or not they're going to keep keeping sheets, I'm not quite sure. Favoured over Cash on that right-hand side, and it's given Digne more licence to attack. Moreno is now available, and he got minutes in this second game, or actually just a minute, I think it was. So I think Digne's still fine, but I think Consa's the guy that you want to own from this Aston Villa defence at the minute. One last mention, Douglas Luiz 3.5 and McGinn 3.8 have both been quality. They're both on 108 points as well, making them the joint 8th midfielders on the game, averaging 5.1. I'm not going to bring them in. I'm just biased. I prefer these attacking midfielders, but cannot deny they've had a good season. Chelsea, going to come onto these fairly quickly. So the fixture run looks good. Everton, Sheffield United, Newcastle, Wolves, Crystal Palace and Luton. The fixtures look really, really good. I just still don't know if I can trust them at the minute. They just lost 2-1 against United, and they beat Brighton 3-2. So it's hard to predict. Just as you think they're turning the corner, they had that defeat yesterday. They've won 3 of their last 6, but they've lost 2 and drawn 1. It's a good fixture run, and they probably will go strong in the cup. But I just don't know who I would pick at the minute. So Sanchez at 2.6 looked a good option. The fixtures look good, but I don't think you can say that they're a better defence. Well, you can't say that they're a better defence than Newcastle, and you can't say they're a better defence than Liverpool at the minute. So would you just rather have Kelleher or Dubravka at the minute? If you're on Kelleher, I'd keep him. If you haven't got either, I'd probably go Dubravka. So yeah, they don't fill me with confidence. He's made 7 saves in each of the last 2 fixtures, which is not a good sign. They're giving up that many shots that he's going to have to make the saves. So I know he's getting the save points. I just don't trust their defence at the minute. Jackson started the last 2 games up front, but I don't think you can consider him. We've not seen enough to make him pickable. Reece James 3.9. When we were talking on the Dream Team Tonic podcast, a few of us said we liked the look of Reece James at 3.9, but didn't start the first one. The first one he was suspended, but the second one he came on at half time. So you would have thought that if he was suspended for the first one, maybe he'd come on or started the second one, but he didn't. He came on at half time, but he did hit 1 bonus in one half of football. So maybe that's promising, but yeah, I don't know. Only 1 fixture in Gameweek 15. You'd have to expect that he's going to start that against Everton. And then they don't have a second fixture, and then they have Sheffield United. So if he gets Everton and Sheffield United, you might be feeling okay about it. But 3.9 is maybe a little bit expensive for the risk. But yeah, we'll have to see. Sterling, 3.9 million, 4 yellow cards. He's a worry again. He probably could have got one yesterday for a shocking dive against United. He's a decent player, but 2 points in the first game this week and 3 points in the second. I think we expect more, and I think at 3.9 million there's still better options. Palmer's probably the best option, or the one I like the look of the most out of these Chelsea players. But he was benched for the first fixture. I think that could have been an injury problem, so maybe we'll let him off. In the second game, he did get 9 points, grabbed a goal in open play, so 5 goals, 5 assists. My favourite option at the minute at 3.2 million, but again, the fixtures look good. It's just trying to choose one of these players I find a little bit difficult. Spurs, I don't have that many players to highlight from them. So they've got the 3-3 draw with Man City, and then they still have West Ham to play this week. So we'll see how that goes. They ended their run of 3 losses with the draw against Man City. After this week, though, without Europe, or with Europe ending, they do have a pretty similar fixture volume to people. So it does put them back on the table. No Carabao Cup, though. So Newcastle at home, Nottingham Forest away, Everton at home, Brighton away, and then Bournemouth at home. I think these look like good attacking fixtures. I still think the defence is a little bit sketchy, but Pedro Porro is someone I'm going to highlight in defence from them. But I'm going to go Son first, 4.4 million. A goal, an own goal, and an assist against Man City, finishing up on 8 points. It's on 103 points, which it's not great, but he's had a lot less fixtures than some of these other players. He's got 9 goals and 2 assists. 7th highest striker. but he's behind players that have been playing in Europe: Haaland, Salah, Watkins, Alvarez, Nunes, and Pedro, all ahead of him, but all had European football. I think after this, or maybe after Newcastle, or maybe even for Newcastle, I do like the look of Son, and I think unless I get Watkins, I think I do see myself bringing Son in during this run. Does appeal to me, but maybe after the Newcastle game. Pedro Porro at 3.3 million. He's Spurs' highest scoring defender on 79 points, which I think is quite good considering no Europe. He's got 4 assists, and he ranks as the 3rd highest defender when it comes to tackle points. He's had 42 tackles in 13 games, so probably the defender I'd go for if I did want to go for Spurs defence. I'm still not that sure on their clean sheets, but he does look like he gets good attacking numbers. Brighton, again, I'm not very keen on Brighton at the minute. A similar story, the fixtures look good, but I just don't know if I can really trust Brighton. Burnley, Marseille next week, both at home. I think that Marseille one is to win the group, I think. Then Arsenal away, Crystal Palace away, Spurs at home, West Ham away. They lost 3-2 against Chelsea, but then they just beat Brentford 2-1. I just still think some of the players are unpickable with the sheer amount of rotation. And it's not just the rotation, it's the early subs as well. In this first fixture, made one at the 57th, another at the 57th, another at the 57th, and another at the 58th. So basically made 4 subs before the 60th minute, which is not what you want to see for fantasy football. And then in the second game, he still used his whole 5 subs. He made a couple at the 69th minute, one at the 73rd, and 2 at the 84th. A lot of the players aren't getting 90 minutes every game, which is frustrating when it comes to fantasy football. João Pedro, 2.9 million. If you really are trying to fit someone in that's a budget player, he's done really, really well for 2.9 million. 113 points and the 6th highest striker on the game. But there's just a few little concerns. Funnily enough, I started the season with him in my team, and I got frustrated with these early subs and benchings. But he has come good. It's just you've got to hold him through that. He played 21 games, but he was benched for 11 of them. So pretty much almost half of his games have been off the bench. He's got 10 goals and 1 assist, but 6 of those 10 goals have came from the penalty spot. So that is one thing to consider as well. Not for me, but if you just really are finding you need to fill a slot for about 2.9 million, maybe he's to be considered. Matoma 3.6 is on 92 points, but one game benched and the other starting. I wouldn't be happy with that. 19th for midfielders. Pascal Gross as well is on a similar price. 3.8 million, 96 points, 4 goals, 4 assists. Got a goal and assist against Brentford, but even him, he was benched in the previous game as well. So nobody is safe from De Zerbi. Apart from Adingra, it seems. 2 starts for him, 3.1 million. He's on 82 points, but again, he was a good option when he was I think he was 2.5 million at one point, and he's actually gone up quite a bit since. So 3.1, but now he's sort of reached that price point. I think I'd look to move him on. Right, so on to my team update then. So, obviously there's still games to play. I've just got the one Newcastle still to play. This week I brought in Kelleher for Johnston in goal. I just thought it covers a Liverpool spot. He's a cheap price, and I think I could just move him on once Alisson is back. I think the fixtures short term looked alright for him. Didn't do very well against Fulham, but kept the clean sheet against Sheffield United. 8 points. I think it's still outscored Johnston, so I'm alright with that. 8 points. Had Simicast got me 6 points at the back. Didn't start the Sheffield United game where the clean sheet happened. Got 6 points in the Fulham game, so it's not the end of the world. Saliba, massive disappointment, 1 point. Zinchenko got the assist at the Wolves game, but then was benched for the second fixture, so suffered with 2 benchings with Zinchenko and Simicast, but I can't say I'm surprised. Martinelli, 11 points, got the goal in that Luton game, I think he was unlucky, hit the post in the Wolves game, so could have had 2 goals, a goal in each. And then Saka, 22 points. I don't have to say too much about him. He's been excellent. Bruno, 4 points. Very unhappy with the 4 points from Bruno. Might end up going on to play 2 games next week, but it's Bournemouth and Bayern, so not great. And then Foden with 12 points. Again, I'm pretty happy with how Foden's been returning. I had Isak up front, just the 3 points against United, which was disappointing. Salah got 22, he was my captain, and then Haaland got 10. So, done all right out of the choice between Haaland and Salah. That's all it would have been for me, really. But Saka looks like he would have been the pick for me. Maybe I should start considering a few more differential captains. Overall, though, so Darwin Núñez, 12th man. I really wanted to, while people were targeting defence with this game week with Liverpool and Arsenal, I really wanted to target attack. So I wanted double Liverpool attack in Núñez and Salah, and I wanted double Arsenal attack in Martinelli, Saka. Núñez didn't really deliver. The goals were there for Liverpool, but he just wasn't amongst them. In hindsight, I think it was a bad decision, but I just felt like with Jota being out injured, there was a chance that Darwin could have started both. But I think you'd have to say that 7 points from the 12th man is a failure in my eyes. But we move on. I did actually consider Núñez as the actual transfer in, but I did this for budget reasons. So I was going to have Núñez in my team and then Isak as my 12th man. But then I saw that Isak, I think, got back-to-back 8-pointers. So was due to go up. Whereas Núñez, I think, had got back-to-back blanks maybe, or 2-pointers. So I thought Núñez as the 12th, Isak as the transfer in. And then obviously Isak has got the Champions League to play as well. So went with Isak. Hopefully does something this evening against Everton. But yeah, that was about it. And the team value, though, I'm doing pretty well for team value. So team value is now at 56 million. That's 54.5 on the pitch and then 1.5 million on the bank. And like I said, I've still got Isak to play. So game week points, 112 points so far for the game week, taking my total to 1,598. And then my rank has dropped. I think for the last video I was in 20th. I think I fell to about 38th after the first round of fixture, and then finished up on 62nd. Obviously after Trent and Virgil van Dijk smashed it in their game yesterday against Sheffield United. So down to 62nd from 20th. I must say I was expecting a bigger rank drop from the Park the Buses, so I'm relatively happy with how this week's gone. I guess the only one that could still harm my rank would be Trippier this evening, but hopefully Isak can do a bit of damage and maybe protect me from potential clean sheet points in that one. But initial thoughts for game week 15 then. So goalkeeper, Kelleher, happy to keep him. So hopefully he gets 2 fixtures. He'll get Crystal Palace. And then he was playing the Europa League games. He did play the last one. Maybe now that he's kind of number one while Alisson is out, maybe Adrian gets the Europa game, but I still think Kelleher probably could get 2, so I'm going to keep hold of him for the price. Tsimikas missed the last one against Sheffield United, but then probably is going to start Crystal Palace, so again, he might only play the 1 fixture, but I think I'm happy to keep hold of him. Saliba and Zinchenko. Now, like I said, I don't really feel like there's a benefit of having 2 Arsenal defenders for their upcoming run and a dodgy couple of games. So I think I can probably drop one of my Arsenal defenders. Looking at Saliba and Zinchenko, despite Zinchenko having a better week, I still think Saliba is the safest and more nailed option. So probably Zinchenko would be the one that I look to move on if I do. Martinelli, relatively happy with. I think he could have had more in the Wolves game if that shot against the post had gone in. And then he was okay in the last fixture. So I'm fairly happy with him. Saka, no trouble at all keeping him. Bruno, it's frustrating because he's probably going to play 2 games and get 90 minutes in both. He's on the 4 yellow card tightrope, but he will be the guy that has to make way if I do want to look to get maybe a Trippier or maybe a Trent in my side. So Bruno, I think, is on the chopping block. Foden, I'm not going to be taking Foden out ahead of this Luton game. I think he starts Luton. I'm doubtful that he'll play against Red Star Belgrade, but I think I'll keep him in just for this Luton game. Isak, Spurs and AC Milan for him. Again, like Bruno, Champions League game that means something. I'm probably going to keep him in for this one. Tottenham away. Tottenham are a really good attacking side, but we've seen that they do leave themselves a little bit open to attack. So I quite like the look of Isak still. And then Newcastle at home. I'll always back Newcastle at home against AC Milan. Under the lights, I think Isak can do the business in that one. So I probably am going to end up keeping Isak. But I do like the look of Son. And then Salah and Haaland, I'm not going to take him out. I've got the captaincy on Haaland at the minute. I'm not quite sure. But even if Haaland does end up playing just the one fixture this week, looking at my team, a lot of players probably are going to just play the one fixture. So that one fixture being Luton, I still think that's a really good game for Haaland. So I think I'm probably going to go with Haaland as my captain. The players that I like the look of. So Trent, how can you not? I wasn't feeling too keen, but I mean, he's absolutely smashed it this week. I didn't doubt that he'd be a really good player to have. It's just whether or not I wanted to have him over Bruno. And if he was worth the money, but I think he shut me up after this week. Kieran Trippier, he's on the 4 yellow cards, but again, he's looked fantastic. We'll wait and see what happens tonight. Maybe he gets that yellow. That could make it off-putting. But Trent and Trippier are 2 players I'm keeping a very close eye on. And if I do end up bringing one in, it's probably going to be at the expense of Bruno Fernandes. Although I have still got 1.5 million in the bank, so I can be flexible. Son, I'm interested, but I don't know if I want to get Isak out at this point. And then Gordon and Bowen are the 2 midfielders that I also do like the look of. So I'm not really quite sure, but I'm leaning towards thinking that I need to get Trippier and I need to get Trent in this team somehow, which means I'll end up maybe losing. If I drop an Arsenal defender, it would be Zinchenko at this point, and Bruno. Bruno is the guy that's probably going to have to be the make weight if I wanted to get 2 of those defenders in. I'm still not sure, but I definitely will be getting one of them in. But yeah, that's pretty much how it is. I can't really give that much more until I've seen how the rest of the results go. Obviously looking at Trippier and that 4th yellow risk tonight. And then let's see if Isak can bang me a couple goals in. But that is everything for this episode. Let me know in the comments below how you got on this week. Let me know if you played a booster, how that one went, if you played the part of the bus as well. But that is everything for this episode. Please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel to get kept up to date with all the latest Dream Team content. And like I said, the Dream Team Tonic podcast is out on YouTube and podcast platforms. And we've also got our Patreon Discord community that you can check out with the link in the description below. Great community of Dream Team managers ready to help share advice and stuff like that. So yeah, do check that out. Thanks for watching and we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.